Hello, and welcome to Talking Tent, a podcast about movies, TV, and all the content we can possibly consume.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Irma.
We are a married couple whose love of movies and TV cannot be contained, so we've decided to share our thoughts, opinions, cheers, and occasional jeers with the world. This week, we will be discussing the disturbing Last of Us finale, a fine enough Poker Face finale, and then diving into the Scream franchise with talks about all three movies since the original trilogy, breaking down 4 and 5 a little bit. Then we'll talk in general about the new one without giving any spoilers. And then we will give a little warning that we're about to spoil some major plot points. So if you haven't seen the movie, you can pause it or come back or quit. Either way.
No, you can't quit. You can't quit. We're not quitters.
We will start like we always do with some hot goss industry talk. And the biggest thing this week, obviously, was the Oscars on Sunday. We did 2 bonus episodes over the weekend, one with our predictions that was posted on Friday, and one with our instant reactions that was posted on Sunday night. So if you haven't listened to those, they should be in your feed. Just go back to the last 2 episodes and give them a listen for all of our Oscar thoughts.
But now that we're a couple days removed, do you have any thoughts about how the Oscars were? I know we were, I think, kind of high on it all in the moment, but geez, it was long.
Oh, it's always long.
I know, it is always long. It is crazy how no movie has ever dominated like Everything Everywhere All at Once had.
Is that true? Just because of all of the acting?
Yeah, like I think they won writing, directing, acting, best picture. Like I don't think a movie's ever really done that before. Maybe Silence of the Lambs? I don't know. It's a long time since something has done that. And it's crazy that like A24 is so dominant now in our culture. It's only a 10-year-old movie studio.
A24 is the best. Every time their logo comes up before a movie, old Zach goes, oh, A24, it can't be bad.
I know, but
and
that's
it's been
only
true.
like for 10 years now.
Yeah, great.
It is kind of sad that Banshees and Tar got completely shut out. And on that fact, Elvis as well. Like it kind of sucks. I feel like they should have gotten a little love.
Yeah, we talked about that. We both thought Banshee should have won original screenplay or Tar, one or the other. But everybody loved Everything Everywhere, so that's what happened.
Yeah, now this Daniels have an overall deal with Universal. So that'll be interesting to see where they go from that with the big studio budget. I know that's where Jordan Peele went after he made his first movie. What was it? The
Get Out.
Yeah, Get Out. So he got a Universal deal as well. And then Chris Nolan's there. So
yeah, they poached them. So A24 finds all the talent, then they get poached.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to say one more thing about the Oscars. They can never have it on daylight savings again. That was brutal. That's all I have to say.
Irma was very tuckered.
I was very tuckered.
She's a sensitive sleeper. She needs her sleep.
I do.
Gets all messed up. We had one major finale this week, and it's easily the best show of the year so far. It's really the only show worth talking about so far. And it was the Last of Us season finale on Oscar Sunday. So we actually watched it on Monday.
Yeah, because it was way too late after the Oscars. But this was a good episode of The Last of Us, the finale. It was great. It was a little more subdued, but everything that they did, it was like high impact, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know about subdued, but well, they did the cold open with showing pretty brutal birth of Ellie with an actress that looked incredibly like her, but I guess that was on purpose because that woman is who played Ellie in the video game. So I guess actually they found Bella Ramsey because she looks a lot like that actress.
Yeah, and Bella Ramsey is great, so.
Pretty brutal. We find out how Ellie was born, why basically she is immune. Her mother was bit just as she was giving birth, so the cordyceps kind of got into her, but just barely enough to make her some sort of freak hybrid.
I would say all the science in this show is not fully explained, and it is what it is. Like Ellie, what was it? Last week's episode, 2 episodes ago, sticking the penicillin right into the wound. I don't think that's how medicine works, but It is what it is.
Sure, she stabbed right into the thing, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly. Like, I don't think it's a show.
And we also found out that Marlene was best friends with Ellie's mom. And she hinted at it earlier, which Irma picked up on, that Marlene had said that she sent Ellie into the...
QZ or into the Fedra training program.
Right. So now they made that very clear that Marlene was in Ellie's life since she was born.
Yeah. And has basically known about Ellie's maybe like ability, immunity, since birth.
I wonder how they tested it out. I wonder if they'll get into that season 2, because we were under the impression that Ellie herself, I'm sure, didn't know until she was bit with Riley. But I wonder if Marlene had some inclination, like something might have happened when she was really young.
Sounds like with Riley, that's when she was first bit. So that's when the immunity was really tested. You know, like maybe before then, like Marlene never really knew if I don't know the mother's name, but if she was telling the truth.
True.
You know?
She lied
Yeah.
to Marlene. She said she got bit after the baby was born and cut
Yeah.
the umbilical cord, which was not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Because she didn't want her to kill the baby immediately, which is probably what would have happened if she thought the baby was also infected.
Yeah. So I'm sure growing up, she probably just thought like, okay, this child is just the child of my best friend. And then after she was bit with Riley, she realized, oh no, this girl's immune. And then remember, like they kept her like in the chains and then kept testing her. So I think that's when she realized what Ellie was and what Ellie could do for the world.
Yeah, and they also addressed a question that I had in a previous episode that I talked about, of the following few hours where they cut off with Riley and Ellie. So Ellie tells Joel that she killed Riley.
Yeah.
She doesn't go into depth about her mental feelings about why she wasn't a mushroom monster. But she does explain that they sat there, Riley went crazy, Ellie didn't, and Ellie killed her, which is devastating.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Would have been interesting to show, but I guess there's only so much space. And it was kind of nice as a moment where both main characters were kind of just opening up to each other about their truths.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just found interesting in this episode how it was kind of like a role reversal for Joel and Ellie. I would say like the episode opens and Ellie's just like almost despondent. Like she's become so insular, so internal, which is I think how Joel has been most of this episode. He's the quiet, like the lone gunslinger almost, like doesn't say very much. And that was really Ellie this whole episode, while Ellie the rest of the season has been like super talkative, very open, wanting to get to know Joel, kind of annoying, but like in that annoying, like young child like way. And then I think that was Joel this episode. He was really just like grasping at anything that Ellie would give him, really just wanting her to like gain her innocence back in a way, gain that like childlike wonder. And then she did with the giraffe, which I think he was like so happy about, but also it was like so fleeting, you know, because it also in that moment she realized like, this is probably the last time I'm ever going to experience something like this because I have to go to the Fireflies. I have to fulfill my purpose. Because I think Joel was trying to give her also in that moment an out, saying like, you don't have to do this, knowing that it probably would have been the end, even though like, I don't think he or she fully grasps what that meant.
Yeah, we'll get to this in a minute, but I don't think either of them truly understood what the Fireflies intended with her.
No, of course not. Of course not.
But on Joel's note, Joel again also makes a pretty big revelation of that he did try and kill himself.
Yeah.
So again, I talked about this in a previous episode that I didn't think he would do that when the father of the child that turns, I forget their names, but no, not the father, the brothers.
Yes.
When the younger brother turns and then the older brother kills himself. When we were talking about that
Henry,
episode,
yeah. Henry and Sam.
I said I just couldn't see Joel doing that. And it turns out I was wrong, or at least this version of Joel, I'm right, because he already did try and do it. And he got past that.
Doesn't really make sense. Him, like, I guess maybe you just flinch, sure. But like he has such precision with shooting. I mean, we see that at the end of this episode but the one person he can't kill is himself.
Yeah, but that's not by mistake. He wasn't actually going to kill himself.
Yeah.
His body wouldn't allow it. His mind wouldn't allow it. He had the thought. His mind got so close to putting the muzzle to his head and pulling the trigger, but ultimately, whatever nerve endings, whatever thing is in his brain, made him move it slightly, so that it wouldn't actually kill him. And then the big part of this episode is Ellie's full commitment to the cause. So maybe Joel is a little bit more aware of what he thinks is coming, because he does kind of try and talk Ellie out of this. And Ellie says, there's no halfways with this. We have to finish what we started, which is wildly mature. Again, more examples of this 13-year-old being wildly mature and wildly brave. And they get to the Firefly facility. Actually, again, another little jump scare, kind of overly unnecessarily violent moment, which they explain away by saying that the scouts didn't know who they were. But they get stun grenaded, and Joel gets yet another concussion, which
I know
Irma called out. I was thinking, oh, Last of Us Part 2 is when Joel just gets CTE.
Yeah, exactly. No way.
Although at the end of this episode, he does get insanely violent, so maybe he already has CTE.
Yeah, true. What I really don't understand. Okay, so Joel wakes up in the hospital. Marlene is standing there, and she's like, oh, it took us so long to get here from Boston. So many people died. Like, we barely made it here. And you, Joel, I know you've had to do some crazy things in order to keep her alive and to make it here. Like, her saying that, like, she understands how dangerous Joel must be. I don't understand why she would tell Joel that Ellie needs to die in order for everyone to live. Like, at that point, like, she should understand how dangerous Joel is. And I think she already knew that in Boston. Like, I think his reputation was, like, out there. Like, I think people knew he was a dangerous man. So why wouldn't she just kill him, to be honest? If she already had him knocked out, and knowing what he could do, and knowing that he probably did grow a little attached to Ellie in this time, like, I just feel like it's very dumb of Marlene to have kept him alive, knowing that she was about to kill Ellie.
Sure, I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think she has it in her to kill him.
I mean, she has it in her to kill Ellie.
Different.
It's if you're doing one, you might as well do them both.
They didn't actually drug him. They just knocked him out. So you can't actually predict when he was going to wake up. But in theory, I guess they could have just handcuffed him to the bed and not exactly told him what was happening. I mean,
yeah, why did they tell him that they were going to kill Ellie?
Maybe she didn't realize the full extent of his attachment and his full loss of a greater good, or kind of a grasp on the humanity. And then, I mean, I guess
what
we could
humanity, though?
Well,
that's my argument. Like, especially coming from last episode, like, the humanity, I understand there is definitely still good, especially like in Wyoming where Joel's brother is. Like, that was like the good of humanity.
Nick Offerman.
That is the humanity we're saving. Absolutely. But then, like, coming from last week's episode, you realize, like, are these people we're saving? And that's the thing that he's most recently been up against, you know? So it's kind of like, and what they did to Ellie and how they scarred her and changed her emotionally, mentally. Like, I just feel like he in that moment was like, no, Ellie is more important than these people.
Yeah, so now we're going to get to how it ends. Joel goes on a rampage. And it was, this is what I meant by disturbing. It was difficult for me to watch. Irma seemed kind of totally okay with it. And
it just, like, it was also the way it was done. Like, it was like very kind of dreamlike in a way. Like, they had like soft music.
Yeah, it was more montagey than the show has ever been.
Yeah, like, it wasn't as like brutal. I mean, it was. I don't know how to explain it. It felt more of like, I guess maybe like a video game in a way. Like, we just gotta mow these people down.
Yeah, I completely disagree, which is totally fine. I think it was the most brutal sequence of the show.
Okay.
On purpose.
I think that was last episode. It was the most brutal.
No, because last episode, it was so black and white. That guy sucked and needed to die.
Yeah, but that was
This
brutal.
is our hero.
Yeah.
I don't mean brutal in just like violence.
Okay.
I mean brutal in like, now I'm questioning everything. What is the point? What was the point of any of this? What was Joel thinking? It brings into question real life sacrifice, like soldiers that go off to war. So in Joel's mind, they shouldn't be. And if you're just a normal human and somehow you have the cure for AIDS inside of you, don't you 100%, doesn't the entire world agree you die if you have to save millions? But we didn't.
If it's your daughter, would you still say that?
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. And I think that's fair. It was a brilliant ending. Craig Mazin talked about that. He talked about Neil.
How polarizing it is and how so many fans have always like chosen either side. Yeah.
He said that the way that Neil Druckmann finished this story was the reason why he wanted to make the show. He said it was the best storytelling he's ever seen in a video game for sure. And I think it's some of the best storytelling I can remember to make. So even in Breaking Bad, when our hero, quote unquote, breaks bad and he turns into a pretty horrible person, it's a pretty small subsect of humanity that he actually affects. And even though we're still rooting for him, it's like his bad is only bad to bad people, mostly, except there's a few innocents that he takes out in his path. But this is, so not only does he, if you just look at the micro, that he kills all of the people at the Fireflies that are doing nothing wrong, in theory, understanding that they're going to kill a girl, but they're hoping that in killing this girl, they're saving the entire world. So yes, it's iffy. It's also gray area because they're not positive. So if they were positive that it was going to work, that changes it. If they were positive, if they made them the villains and it was like they're definitely not going to work, that makes it easy. But they don't do anything. It's all gray. Everything's gray. Everything's morally ambiguous. And that is brilliant. There is no answer. And now Joel is just lying to Ellie, and Ellie knows it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, even like, I would say in modern day, like medicine, if you get a cancer diagnosis, you're going to want to go get a second and third opinion. And I almost feel like
they don't have that luxury.
I almost just feel like Joel was kind of like, there has to be another way. Like, and they don't even like entertain that, the Fireflies. I definitely don't know who I side with. I fully understand where Joel is coming from. And it's not like they were treating him and his argument or his like attachment to her with any like sincerity. Yeah, it was great. It really was. I can't wait to see what they do in the second season, because I think when Ellie finds out, she's going to be really upset.
There is no answer. And that's what's great about it. There's arguments for both sides. Nobody's the hero. No one's the victim here. And that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
It has you questioning the morals of everyone involved, except maybe Ellie, because she wasn't able to make that decision. But we're kind of led to believe that if she would have sacrificed herself.
Yes.
Based on her earlier quote that we don't go halfway, but she's going to try and finish it. And I think even with Henry and the little kid, like if she could have saved the little kid by dying herself, I think she would have.
Yeah. Well, I also feel like at that age, you just don't really understand what death is in a way. So I think she just would have done it blindly. But like to Joel, like it means more to him. So I could see why he wants to understand, like not even just understand, but just like find a different way.
Yeah, I think when you straddle a man that just tried to kill you and stab him in the face 20 times, if you become aware of what death is. Her journey,
No,
this
that's not what I'm
season's journey.
saying. For herself.
True, but this season's journey, I think, has made her fully aware of both the good and bad in humanity and what her role is in all of this. And yeah, like you said, Joel opened up way more. So it made sense about the death of his daughter. And he simply just refused to lose a second daughter. And ultimately he was too powerful and too capable for the Fireflies, who I guess didn't see it coming and thought that their job was done. And he killed a lot of innocent people and then lied to Ellie. And now they are, I don't know what they're going to do now. Because then what is the mission? I guess there doesn't have to be a mission. So in normal storytelling, I would say in season 2, there doesn't have to be a mission. They can just, I assume they're going to go, they show them going back to Tommy, I guess, right? Because they're going back to Wyoming.
Yeah, Wyoming.
But since we know it's based on a video game, there has to be a mission. So what's the goal next? It could be anything. But is it no longer saving the world? Like what could it possibly be?
I bet it still is. I bet I almost probably think it's probably like Ellie going off on her own,
yeah, possibly.
Without Joel, realizing that Joel's probably a really bad influence on her and going out and trying to do what she needs to do. And then probably Joel chasing her. Who knows?
True. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's really the only way, that Ellie has to find out what truly happened somehow. And her deciding finally that she would have wanted that and potentially leaving Joel, and who knows. Great episode. Great TV. We talked our favorite TV of last year. I think this is easily top 2 with Euphoria for me, if this was included. So I find it very difficult that this is going to be topped for me.
Just wait until Succession come back, because that's also it's season the final or the finale.
Yeah, I mean, this season 4 of Succession is just not going to wow me like The Last of Us did, just in its ability to tell such a simple story, and such brutality is always going to get me going. I mean, actually, I guess Succession gets pretty brutal as well. I'm sure it will have snappy dialogue and wonderful, wonderful character development. But I just don't see us talking about the morality of humanity. Although, man, that's also not true, because Succession gets pretty immoral. But yeah, I mean, I loved The Last of Us. It was just a perfect 9 episodes of television. At no minute of the roughly 9 hours was I bored or distracted. Or it was incredible.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
And then moving on to our second finale of the week, Poker Face, Ryan Johnson's procedural murder of the week show with Natasha Lyonne, finished its first season. It's already picked up for a second season. And I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I mean, it wrapped up the season, I suppose. It brought back what happened at the beginning of the season with her best friend dying, and then the owner of the casino coming after her because his son dies, not because of her, but kind of.
Yeah, so Benjamin Bratt catches up with her, and we see his perspective, actually. So it turns out that he'd been chasing her for over a year.
Yeah, which I kind of like.
Isn't as obvious when you're just following Charlie. It's obviously some time passes, but one guy just following someone for a year, trying to figure out where she is when he thinks he should be doing, have a real job or be helping the casino more professionally. We see him kind of cracking and him not liking that this is his job. So an animosity towards Ron Perlman's character, who's the big boss, is brewing, and we see that finally. But he finds her in the hospital after the JGL episode where she almost gets killed, and captures her and brings her back to Ron Perlman, who then says, "I don't want to kill you. I need your help." So I don't know why he didn't just ask from episode 1 saying, "Hey, you want to help? You want to
Well, I guess the year also gave him time to
Sure.
look into his son's death and what his son was actually doing, and how his son was about to double cross him in a way with working with the 5 families. I don't know. It just sounds all kind of ridiculous when you talk about it out loud. But
Yeah, so they eventually transition the big bad to be Rhea Perlman, who is
not Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
No relation.
Yeah, no relation and spelled different. We only hear her voice, but she seems like she's the head of an East Coast casino
From Atlantic
mafia
City.
almost.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what they're kind of referring to. And Ron Perlman is going to ask Charlie to help him take her down, or kind of see through her promises and her bullshit and
Yeah.
help him basically be a translator almost of lies,
Yeah.
which is a funny concept if that's all she was. And then Benjamin Bratt double crosses Ron Perlman.
Which I thought was kind of like interesting that like it happened even when he was like taking her back. Like the way he makes her hold the gun to get her
Mhm.
fingerprints on it. I like kind of enjoyed that. And like the glow in the dark poker chip. Like it was all just like kind of cute. And like even the penis ring. I don't know how that like it all just worked for
Yeah,
me.
the setups and the executions of all of the murders are always really clever.
Yeah.
It definitely comes from Rian Johnson's kind of murder mystery, putting the puzzle pieces together in mind. So all of that worked and it was fun. It's just kind of disappointing that I guess that's the point though, is this is a murder of the week show. So the overarching story is only a tiny bit. And we basically just transitioned from Ron Perlman wanting to kill her and hunt her down to Rhea Perlman now wanting to hunt her down. Just a weird transition when you go from a perfectly plotted, beautiful story like Last of Us to not as serious, but it's still fun.
I also have to say, I love Simon Helberg. He's the guy from Big Bang who plays the FBI agent. I just like love how he's like sprinkled in and there's like some sort of like chemistry like sparkling, but I don't think anything's actually going to happen with them. But I like that he's also become like a reoccurring character. So I'm excited to see, if he's in the next season a little bit more. Yeah, I guess we'll see what crazy things Charlie gets up to next.
Yeah, I wonder where they can kind of go from here. Are they just going to do 10 more Charlie finds herself in strange situations? I guess so.
Yeah, why not?
The old shows, Murder, She Wrote, Columbo, that Peacock would have started playing, the automatic play next. Columbo came on. They did that for how many? Like 20 seasons between the two shows or all of those shows. So yeah, I wonder if maybe they should shorten the episodes. An hour is long for some of these.
An hour is long. You are right about that. I do enjoy them when they're on. Natasha Lyonne, I love her. I really do. But her, mannerisms, the way she talks, like it does kind of get annoying after a while. I'm not going to lie, but I don't know. I do enjoy her. Like when she was like trying to blend into the bachelorette party, I found hilarious, because that's so unlike her, and her wearing this like flowery dress is like so unlike her. I don't know. I just love her in like these weird situations, and she's so adaptable, and so I'm excited to see where they take it next season.
And finally, on the TV front, the second episode of The Mandalorian was on Wednesday, of course, and it was a little bit better. It kind of made me think, why did we even do that first episode? This would have been a much better first episode because they don't even go back for that other droid, which was the point of the entire first episode.
Yeah, it was weird.
He visits Amy Sedaris, who's a longtime reoccurring character who everybody loves, kind of a grandmother figure to Grogu, I guess.
Who was so excited to see her, jumped in her arms.
And she often also is their way to kind of just quickly have an answer for something, because she seems very capable and very knowledgeable. So it's like, oh, I need a droid. Oh, here's a droid. Next step,
Yeah.
Like we didn't have to do all of whatever that first episode was.
I think it was more just like a check-in the first episode, but yeah, I know what you mean.
And really the only important thing was him meeting up with Bo-Katan, but he could have done that and then went to Amy Sedaris and then back to Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
I found myself thinking that this show feels more like a video game than The Last of Us, which is based on a video game. It's very just linear. It's almost like there's an arrow on top of
Mando.
Yeah, what's his actual name though? Din Djarin's head, just like, and then there's an X on the map, like how we're running around the Hogwarts castle just to get to this next thing, and then you push X and you do the thing, and then you go find the next flag. It's like, okay, go to this
find
place.
This droid, and then you take the droid and you do the thing with the droid.
And then even the dialogue is just like very stunted. I'm finding myself questioning, was season 1 and 2 actually good?
Yes,
or we were just, it just came in a bit of a drought of content and it was a fun Star Wars journey? Or is it just that these two episodes have just not been as good?
Yeah, I know. I'm excited for them to get deeper into the lore. We definitely got a little bit of it when they were down in the caves with Bo-Katan, and she was like reading the inscription. And then like they get dragged down into the water and then you see the mythosaur and it's just kind of like, and you can tell in the beginning like Bo-Katan is so like disenchanted, or what's the word? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, because it feels kind of like almost like a religious cult in a way. Like
Absolutely. He's going back to the waters to be baptized.
Yeah, exactly. And then like, yeah, so Bo-Katan just thinks it's all ridiculous. But then being in the water, she kind of is like, I guess she becomes baptized herself in that moment with Din Djarin. And it's kind of funny that this is a religious story in a way, but I guess like,
Well, Star Wars
yeah,
always is. They're Jedi's, magical powers.
Yeah,
and
yeah. It's just so hard because I'm not a big religious believer. So, but I do enjoy where this could go.
Bo-Katan is definitely the more cynical non-believer, and she reads the myth of the mythosaur, the mythosaur, quite on the nose, like unobtainium from Avatar. The mythosaur, the myth of the mythosaur, and then she actually sees it under the water. So that part, I guess she'll believe, but just all the traditions of not taking off her helmet. She's easily the best character.
Yeah, I agree. I like her.
Hopefully her and Din are together for most of this season.
Din needs someone because he's just like so like boring.
Yeah, I mean, on purpose.
I know it's on purpose, but Jesus, Din, come on.
Yeah, the cuteness of Grogu kind of carried him for 2 seasons. He had, there would always be other people with him, but it was always the most exciting when those blue people, Bo-Katan and her compatriots showed up, or when Sasha Fierce was there.
Oh,
she's got to be back on the show. Bring Sasha back. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Bo-Katan is on it, or I think we're in trouble.
I think she will be. I think this is kind of the start of this like duo, especially now that like Mando has the dark saber, so maybe they can rule Mandalore together. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Well, he lost the darksaber, and then Bo-Katan is actually the one that wielded it and defeated all those people.
So maybe she has it now. I don't know.
Din couldn't even fight off these people that Bo-Katan made look so easy to kill. Just an odd one. I think if this was the first episode, I would feel
better about the season,
because I'd be like, okay, they reintroduced the storyline and they got us going, and now they're going to fight this crazy underwater monster, presumably. I just don't understand what that first episode was.
Yeah.
All right, and now it is time for date night at the movies. I'm just going to go quickly make some Jiffy Pop. Oh, what the hell is this? Hello?
Why don't you want to talk to me?
Excuse me? Who is this?
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
Oh, hey, I'm Zach. What's up?
What's that noise?
Oh, I'm making popcorn. It's date night.
You making popcorn?
Yeah, we're going to watch a movie.
I only eat popcorn at the movies.
Yeah, we're going to watch a movie. Well, what's your deal, man?
Really? What?
Oh, probably something pretty scary.
You like scary movies?
Yep, very much. Love them.
What's your favorite scary movie?
That's a tough question, man. There's, all the new stuff. The Ari Aster's really bending the genre. I really loved It Follows. And then, of course, the classics, Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
Well, if you're making me pick one, dude, it's Scream. It's got to be Scream. Huge fan. But I got to go. I'm in the middle of recording a podcast with my wife. So call me back if you want to chat. And we can talk all the scary movies you want, man. Happy to do it. See you later. All right, I'm back. I brought you some popcorn for us to munch on while we talk everything Scream. Hello, Irma. Do you like scary movies?
Batman? Is that you?
No.
No, I do not.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Well, I wouldn't say this is my favorite one, but when Zach stinks up the bathroom, that's pretty bad.
Okay. You want to die?
No, I don't.
Okay. We saw Scream 6 Thursday at 5:30. It was the first showing at our beloved AMC Dolby Theater. There were people in the ghost face masks. I bought a novelty cup that came with my Coke.
And they gave you a poster.
They gave me a free poster. It's hanging up. I was so giddy. Scream is just one of my favorite things. And I love that it's turned into this phenomenon, franchise, ever popular thing. They brought it back.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. It was fun going to the theater to watch this. I think I enjoyed seeing it at the theater because of all of the people, the
Hoopla.
excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helped. It really helped.
I find that comedies and horrors, depending on the type of horror, but specifically this type, where there's the little bit of fun. So like my enjoyment of something like Infinity Pool, I don't think would have changed with an audience or not. In fact, I would rather watch something that's kind of dreary and scary and silent by myself, because I don't like when people laugh when they're nervous.
Right, you do
It
hate
really
that.
bothers me. But in this movie, it's all just fun jump scares.
Yeah. Well, this has funny parts,
Yeah,
funny moments.
It's
for sure.
honestly more of a thriller.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But
Like,
yeah,
I think-
comedies and horrors are just always so good to see with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the movie theater was full. The laughs were coming, the cheers and the jumps and the screams. Great stuff all around. First, let's go back a bit. I kind of want to talk about the 3 movies post trilogy. So the original trilogy is obviously iconic, except that Scream 3 sucks. But Scream 4 came out in 2011, and it was the original team. It was Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson coming back, and I think it was a fantastic comeback.
Like, this was in 2011?
Yeah, long time ago.
Oh, that is
That's why Hayden looks so different.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. It just kind of had all the things, new characters, new kills, basically almost a reboot, but not really, because Sidney's in it a lot. I'm actually surprised that it didn't spawn more, but I think it was because Wes died, and then they kind of didn't know what to do with it.
This was after 4, he died?
Yeah. It might even be the last thing he directed.
Well, so for the first 4 Scream movies, like when did the third one come out?
2000. So it was like 4
Oh,
years,
I
3 and 4 years.
I see. And then it was 10 years to Scream
11.
4. Yeah.
And then they waited another 11 years.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yes, Scream 4 was the last thing he directed. But I think in general, Scream 4 was really good. And Emma Roberts was a fantastic villain. It was a great comeback of the villain, the killer reveal, and the villain monologue. Very, very meta that Emma Roberts played Jill Roberts, who was tired of living in her aunt's shadow. And if you don't know, Emma Roberts is Julia Roberts' niece. Her and Rory Culkin plan this whole thing. And again, they kind of use the tropes of the time. They introduce a kind of a found footage thing. So it's like what Scream does. They adjust to what's popular in the time. They introduce found footage. They introduce the killers, kind of making the movie in the moment, which is really cool. They also introduce Hayden Panettiere's character, who comes back, even though she gets stabbed.
Who is Hayden Panettiere?
She's just one of the friends.
Okay.
So it's like a whole new group of high schoolers, less connected to anything except the family connection to Sidney. But yeah, then nothing comes of it. Wes Craven dies, and I think they didn't know what to do with it until these 2 guys came along. So if 1 was just your classic, it's my favorite horror movie. It's just a part of my life now. 2 is a solid sequel. 3 is awful. We don't talk about 3. Then 4 is a very good comeback 11 years later. 5, they breathed a whole new life, understanding what makes the franchise work, but breathing in a new life so it no longer felt stale. I think if the same people had done another one, so if Wes Craven had done Scream 5 in 2013 with Kevin Williamson, I don't know, maybe I'm sure it would have been good, but it would have started to get cheesy. And then the fact that they made Scream 3 shows that, I don't know, they might have ran out of ideas. But these 2 guys, Matt Bettinelli-Oplin and Tyler Gillette, who they made movies on the internet, collectively known as Radio Silence. So again, we talked about Daniels. The team directors are back. Lord Miller. There's just a lot of non-sibling team directors now. And all they've made is good stuff. And there's a different writing team. So actually the guy that wrote Ready or Not came along with them and wrote 5 and 6. And again, it's just a clever reintroduction of the concept. They introduce, obviously Scream gets meta. They introduce it as a requel, kind of like how the Star Wars were doing it. And it's not a reboot because the legacy characters are in it older, but it's not a sequel because it is kind of a reboot. So they deem the word requel. They have Randy's niece and nephew as kind of the new Randy.
The twins. I like them.
Yeah, the twins are huge and become more essential in 6. They do a lot of references to the original one while updating it. Mindy and Chad are the new Randys. And they reference the movie. They show Mindy watching the stab version of Randy almost getting killed on the couch, and she's screaming, look behind you, while she's watching it in the exact same couch. And then realizes, instead of it being like the stupid movie thing where then, she just gets stabbed right there while she's saying, look behind you, she realizes she's being stupid and looks behind her and the killer's there and she gets away.
I feel like you buried the lead a little bit too. Isn't Jenna Ortega in this?
Jenna Ortega is, all right, I guess I didn't talk about the story that much. They introduce Sam, who is, I think we learned pretty early on. Sam Carpenter, a nod to John Carpenter, obviously, is the daughter of Billy Loomis.
Who's the killer
from the first one. And she is away. She has left Woodsboro, and we find her with Jack Quaid, her boyfriend. In the beginning of the movie, they do the cold open again with Jenna Ortega. Again, they incorporate new technology, so it's on a cell phone. She's texting at the same time. She's texting with a friend. She's also controlling the house locks with her smartphone, so she's locking and unlocking, and then the killer somehow has access, so it keeps arming and unarming the alarm, and he gets in, and he stabs her lots of times.
Jenna Ortega?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's really difficult to kill people in these movies, we find out, because they all get stabbed so much and don't die. And yeah, so they actually kind of do Jenna Ortega a little dirty in the first one because she's in the hospital or near death the entire movie.
The 5th one, yeah.
Yeah. And so then Sam, who is her half sister, gets the call that Ghostface is back and she was attacked. And that's what brings her back to Woodsboro.
I see. Also, I have to say, Sam and Jack Quaid, not the most realistic couple. She's so pretty.
Hey, Jack Quaid's got his charm. So again, as a requel, they reintroduce a whole host of new friends. There's a new hot girl. There's a new Randy. There's new Sydney, who is Sam. Then I guess Tara's character is kind of new. So that's Jenna Ortega. Is kind of not exactly a reintroduction of anybody. And then they just set out all the rules. It's very aware of what it is now. So the original one obviously didn't really know it was a murder mystery, but now they know it's a murder mystery, and they set out Mindy's character, one of the twins, Randy's niece, kind of sets out. They're all in the living room with Dewey, and just talking about like, it has to be one of us, and they accuse each other. And Dewey looks at Jack Quaid and goes, it has to be you. It's always the love interest, and he shakes it off. And Jack Quaid just like, even so, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert on Scream 5, but one of the killers is Sam's boyfriend, Jack Quaid. And even the second time I watched it, knowing that, he still almost had me fooled, even though I knew it was, because he's just so good at playing charming and self-deprecating and a little nerdy. He just like plays it perfectly. We almost can't even believe it. So, and they also build perfectly. It could be any of them. They say that it could be Dewey. And since Scream 1, I've been saying they should have Dewey eventually be the killer. I think everybody said that, so they always hint at it. But then obviously they kind of can't. He's kind of the heart of it all. And there's so many great lines in this movie. It's so well written with the dialogue. The first one that stands out is when, again, spoiler alert, they kill Dewey. It's a shocking moment.
Are you sure they killed Dewey?
Yes. This one, he gets pulled out in a body bag. It's not like the rest of them that like 45 minutes later, we see them getting pulled out just with a breathing mask and put into an ambulance. He is fully dead. Before it happens, the killer just goes, "It's an honor." Just like such an iconic moment of killing Dewey and acknowledging that is such a big deal. Another line I marked down when Gail calls Sidney and she asks if he has a gun. If she has a gun, she goes, "I'm Sidney Prescott. Of course I have a gun."
I remember when they killed, oh my God, the boyfriend. What's his name? Why can't I think of it?
Billy.
Yeah, Billy with a headshot.
Yeah, the final thing is the headshot.
And I remember even thinking, still then he wasn't
he's
dead.
coming back. You got to shoot him in the head. That's
well, no, I know, but like the way they made him look, like his eyes wide open, it was so scary and so haunting.
I also forgot to mention, so Jenna Ortega in the opening, the killer is asking her about scary movies, and they make all these references to kind of these new high-minded scary movies. He asks what her favorite scary movie is, and she says The Babadook. And it's like The Babadook and It Follows and these kind of a little bit more indie thinking movies. It's aware of all that and saying that this isn't that. We're a slasher. We're fun. and then at the end, at one point, I forget the exact context, but I think it's as they're kind of taking down the killers, Jenna Ortega screams, "I still prefer The Babadook."
Oh my gosh, that is
This is a kind of nice bookending of the references to the
I don't
high-minded.
even think I know what The Babadook is.
You didn't see The Babadook.
No, no shit, Zach.
It was just an Australian horror movie about basically the difficulties of motherhood, honestly.
Oh, great.
So
Joy, what I have to look forward to.
This movie, it's a great reintroduction, a great requel of everything we loved about Scream. The highlight is Mikey Madison, who is ultimately the killer. She's the oldest daughter from Better Things that I knew her from. So I was pretty prepared for her to be a good actress.
And she's just in the friend group?
Yeah, she's just one of the friends. She's kind of the weirder one, but not really in a way that stands out from anything else. It could have been any of them.
Yeah.
There's certain points, because again, they're always aware of the rules. So like Mindy and her go down to the basement to get beer, and then they kind of have this, "No, you're the killer" moments of being like, "Well, you shouldn't have come down here alone." And they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't have followed me alone. Like, I could be the killer. I could be the killer." And watching it for the first time, you don't know which one's which, or if either of them are. Watching it for the second time, terrifying, because I like she could snap at any moment. But when she does, they're all in the kitchen and they're screaming at one of the girls, and Mikey is holding the gun, and they're all just accusing each other of who's the killer. And then Chad's girlfriend at the time just says, "Well, it's not me." And then it just snaps. Her face changes and she just goes, "I know," and pulls the gun out and shoots her right in the face. A perfect line read.
Shit.
Just the "I know" is iconic. She's the best. And then she just screams, "Welcome to Act 3," and just goes absolutely nuts. It's easily the best killer reveal monologue since the first one. Then it turns out that she was working with Jack Quaid, and another great line when Jack Quaid kind of gets Sam, I think in some sort of headlocker, has the gun to her head and says, he's like, "I know, it's so disappointing. It's me." Just all of these reveals were so good, as opposed to the new one that we're going to get to. My only gripe with the new one that we'll get to is that the killer reveal did not live up to how good this one is.
For Scream 5, why did they want to do that?
This one, they really just celebrate the fans. And they acknowledge that they're just fans of the Stab movies. And they make all of these references to saving the franchise. Because in the Scream movies, there are the Stab movies. So it's a franchise within the franchise. So Mikey Madsen just wants to make a better movie because she didn't like, I think it's like Stab 7. They're really mad about Stab 7. And then she met Jack Quaid on a message board. And they come up with this whole thing of bringing Billy Loomis's daughter back and framing her as the killer and just building this perfect narrative to reinvigorate the franchise, because they said like they are claiming that the people ran out of ideas because the best ideas came from Scream 1. Best idea of Stab 1 came from Scream 1, which was real, right? So then as the things weren't real, they're bad. So just a lot of like that they make the fans the psychopaths is a really interesting way to both celebrate the fans and be like, "Hold it, take it down a notch, everybody."
Well, that carries a little bit into Scream 6.
Yeah.
Wanting to continue what these two killers started in the very beginning.
Right. So now we can get into Scream 6. Scream 5, I just really wanted to celebrate that killer reveal. It's so good. I would just watch that again, I think. Just 20 minutes of Mikey Madison going nuts. It's great.
Yeah, I liked Scream 6 a lot, actually. And obviously, like, I think we've said before, like, I'm not a huge scary movie person, but I had fun with this. And there were a couple times where I had to look away because, like, I was just like, the gore and whatever, just like, I just hate looking at that. But I wouldn't say there were any, like, major jump scares. Like, normally when there's a jump scare or I know there's going to be a jump scare, I grab Zach's arm. And I didn't really do that.
Yeah, well, they don't, in Scream, they don't do the dark, ominous, the lights just turned off and we're just sitting in silence knowing that some spooky face is about to show up.
Yeah.
They do jump scares, but it's usually like, oh, I'm walking down an alley and there's Ghostface.
Or no, there's your friend and you think it's Ghostface.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as like they don't build the tension as much like a more ghost story. But yeah, so first we're going to start with no spoilers. So anybody that hasn't seen it, I think can still listen. I really loved it. We had a great time. They did another really innovative opening. They're always one-upping the opening. So the Scream 5, they kind of just redid the Drew Barrymore more or less, but just with new technology. And then obviously they let the up-and-coming star of Jenna Ortega not die, as opposed to Drew Barrymore.
Wait, what do you mean? They started with the girl from Ready or Not, didn't they?
No, I said 5.
Oh,
so 5
okay,
did a much
sorry.
more, like the more traditional kind of recreation of the first one. This one was totally different. This one, they used new technology. They used made tropes on dating apps, and they used Samara Weaving,
Yeah.
who I realized after the fact that the writer is from Ready or Not.
Yeah.
Actually, no, the writer and director, Radio Silence, also did Ready or Not. So they had a relationship with Samara Weaving.
Yeah, and using her real accent.
Really
I wasn't
using a
prepared
real
for
accent
that.
she never does.
Yeah.
And they have her get a call from a date that seems to be standing her up. And then it unravels from there. And I just thought it was a really cool way to use kind of the times of dating apps. Like, it's always relevant to what's up now.
Yeah.
And then they kind of pull a very big twist on us, which I thought was really interesting. So this is I am spoiling the first 5 minutes of the movie. They show who kills Samara Weaving. And at first I was like, oh shit, they're really doing this. This is not even going to be a whodunit. It's just going to be a straight up potentially massacre, like Halloween.
Yeah. That maybe like these killers are not in the friend group, in a way.
Yeah. Like a more traditional slasher movie where there's a villain.
Yeah.
And we kind of know that person's that person. And then there's victims. Then it becomes clear that is not the case, but that's all I'll spoil. But we find the whole crew has moved. The survivors from 5 have all moved to New York City, which I think was a very welcome change.
They did? It looked like Atlanta to me.
Is it? No, it's definitely New York.
It was not New York. No way. I mean, they were in Washington Square Park for like one scene and then everywhere else, not New York. I mean, you can get like a subway. Maybe they were on a subway once, but other than that, no. 100% not New York. Toronto, maybe? Maybe it was Toronto.
So in the fictitious land of Scream, the entire, not the BTS of where the studio was. The whole crew has moved to New York. So Jenna Ortega's character moved there to go to college. And then Sam, her sister, moved there to overprotect her. And the twins have followed along to also go to college because Tara and the twins are the same age. And then Sam is several years older, post-college. And they once again do a rules outline. What I love about Scream is some of it is goofy and some of it is on the nose and some of it is predictable, but they're always aware of all that and tell you that it's happening while it's happening. So you can't even be annoyed about it. So when they're like, if the last one was the requel, what is this one? The franchise. It's officially a franchise because we had the trilogy, then we had a random kind of reimagination, then we had the reboot. And now they're making a sequel to the reboot. So it's not a sequel because it's the 6th one. So what is it? Oh, it's officially a franchise. So the rules are different. The legacy characters are now expendable. They showed you that in 5. So Gail could die. Who knows? Other people can die. And they also said that even the new people we've established them. Any of them could be involved now. Just like, and then they also reference that Scream 2 was at college. So this one is also at college.
Okay.
And they also reference, they tell you what's going to happen. They tell you that they got a bigger budget. They ramp up the violence. They ramp up the tension. The chase scenes are longer. There's more blood. And then all of that is true. The Ghostface scenes in this movie were fantastic.
They were really good.
Every time that Ghostface shows up, it was an epic scene. That all of the chases, the bodega scene, the ladder scene, all of it was just fantastic. Highlighted by the subway scene, I think.
Yeah, that subway scene was great.
Subway scene where
that's the one with the most tension.
Yeah,
I think.
that's true. They go a little bit. They go much more traditional horror.
Yeah.
With it, also surrounded by all of the other horror monsters and the history of horror.
Yeah, because I guess it was like during Halloween. Yeah, so that was cool.
5 was markedly more violent than the original 3 and then 4, and then this one was even more violent. I was talking to Irma saying like when you know that the violence has been ramped up is when they move the knife.
Yeah.
So that's like the step like it's Psycho. They show the squant like in and out.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that's violent. But when the knife is in and they twist it or they move it, that's when you're like, oh man, that is brutal.
Yeah, they did that a couple times.
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely pretty brutal. There were a couple times where, like I said, I turned away, but there were other times where I had to keep watching because I was just like, what is happening? You know?
Yeah, so top tier Ghostface chases and Ghostface kills and just innovation. They use New York or not New York very well. So it's much more, since it's not just in their hometown high school or, their suburban town, there's a lot more strangers around. There's a lot more police around because they're just in the streets of New York. So there's a lot more collateral damage, which was very welcome. Again, I couldn't imagine them doing this again just in Woodsboro.
Well, I do find that setting of New York interesting because, especially highlighted with the subway scene, you could be surrounded by people and feel less safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes you think oh, there's people around, someone will see if something happens. Not to bring this up, but on the subway, someone grabbed me once. Everyone just stood there. No one did anything until after the fact. Someone came up and handed me tissues because I was crying. And it's kind of scary to think that it doesn't it's almost even scarier in New York, which I think is not debatable. People say that all the time, but yeah.
I think it was very aware of New York. I don't know where the writers and the Radio Silence guys are from. I assume they live in LA now, but they were definitely aware of the truth of New York. They hit all of the main spots, everywhere that there could be some sort of cool action space where you're like, this is uniquely New York. They do it.
Yeah.
So they definitely, somebody lived there. They had to have.
Yeah.
Because if you asked me to write a movie or storyline around LA, I just wouldn't be able to. I don't know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't feel honest. I could do it. I can fudge it and make it based on other movies I've seen.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't feel honest. And as two native New Yorkers, this felt like somebody is aware of New York.
Realistic. Because something happens on the subway and people just stand there.
Yeah.
And that's so realistic to how New York is. I mean, sometimes people will come and try and help, but mostly people walk the other direction.
Yeah.
They don't want to be involved. Yeah, so I just found that so relatable, which is kind of funny to say about a Scream movie.
Now we're going to get, I think, into some more detail. So if you're scared of spoilers, pause it, go buy your ticket to AMC or any movie theater, go watch it, come back, listen to the rest of this conversation.
Hello, Zachary.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Do you like scary movies?
I very much do. They're my favorite.
Tell me about it.
So I think we could just get into a little more detail of all the kills. So I thought the big first one, so besides the open with Samara Weaving, that was really cool. Just out in the streets, like the West Village. But a little bit more straightforward. In an alley that
definitely does not exist, but yes.
Goes down an alley, gets stabbed. Nobody would have known.
By the guy in Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's having a glow up. He's in Servant and in Spider-Man. He's in a lot of stuff. So like I was saying earlier, so he kills Samara Weaving and then takes the mask off and throws it out.
Yes.
just so that the evidence isn't on him, I guess. And so that I was shocked because they show who it is. It's like, okay, so we're doing this. They're just a killer. And he goes back to his apartment and he's calling for his roommate, we assume.
Who it sounds like his partner in these killings.
And we learn that they're partners in these killings.
They go to college with Jenna.
They play with the tropes of the time of internet conspiracies. And so it had developed that actually Sam was involved in the killings. So a lot of people on the internet think
it's a conspiracy.
That Sam Carpenter was involved in the killings from 5. So that she actually convinced her boyfriend to kill all these teens because she is a psychopath who's Billy Loomis's daughter, which is not true. But lots of people believe it, and these 2 guys believe it, and they're trying to kill the Carpenter sisters. The actor's name is you would never ever guess this. His name is Tony Revolori.
Really?
Yeah, but if you look him up, everybody would recognize him. He's the one that's not in the friend group in Spider-Man. That's
I think his name is Trent or something.
He tries to take credit for some of it, like being Peter's best friend, and he's not.
Yeah.
So then he goes back to his apartment and he's calling for his roommate, who we kind of realize is his partner in this conspiracy to kill the Carpenter sisters. And he gets a call from the Ghostface voice. And at first he's like, oh, we said we weren't going to do this to each other. And it becomes clear that this is not his roommate. And it again becomes clear that, okay, we are, thank God, once again doing whodunit. And his roommate is cut into pieces in the refrigerator.
Yeah. Brutal.
The first ultra violence that we've seen.
Yeah.
And getting us ready for the rest of the movie. And then then we find our characters. So Tara, Jenna Ortega, is at a party in a house, like a house party of some sort in Manhattan with the twins. Yeah, it's just a fun reintroduction. They really bring Chad to a new level.
Chad is the other twin, so it's Mindy and Chad.
Mason Gooding, who we know from the Love Victor television show that we watched. He was really good in that too. He's a handsome guy. He's also fit.
Yeah.
So he does this it's almost an iteration on Randy and Dewey. The 2 twins are kind of both of them together because they're nerdy and goofy and kind of the heart of the crew. But then he's a very formidable person. And eventually Dewey, even though he's very goofy in the beginning, turns into a formidable person. Jenna Ortega is being swooned by some douche. And Mindy takes care of that and goes and finds her brother to make that not happen. And then Sam finds them at the house party, and it's like, we got to go. The killer's back. And we have this the introduction of the tension of Tara saying, you can't baby me. I have to live my life. What happened to us was horrible. You're completely stunted by it, but I have to keep living my life. And then that tension kind of is throughout the rest of the movie. The first big scene is the bodega scene.
You're right.
Because they're out on the streets and Tara's like, leave me alone. This isn't a big deal. We don't have to leave the city. And then almost immediately, the Ghostface finds them in the street and they run into a bodega. Once again, ramping up the violence. The bodega owner has a shotgun. So we're introducing shotguns into the franchise. And he starts just shooting, again, terrible aim, but he starts shooting out all the aisles, and Ghostface just quickly runs out of the way. And they're just crawling around this little bodega. People are getting killed. They get out. That's when we know, oh, the shit is on.
Yeah.
Then
it's also kind of silly because the bodega is so small. They could be one of 2 places.
Yeah, there's 2 aisles.
And I just don't understand why Ghostface was walking so slow. Like, you know where they are. But it was still a really great scene.
So then they have the whole franchise conversation that I talked about with Mindy lays out with everybody. The new roommate, the new Chad's new roommate. So there's 2 strangers.
Mindy has
twins,
a girlfriend.
Mindy has a new girlfriend. So there are a few people that we don't know that everybody's a little wary of. And again, like I was saying, they really just ramp up Chad and Mindy. They're both so funny. And he starts really introducing the concept of the core 4. And this is going to be really prevalent in the rest of the franchise because they all survive.
Yeah.
The core 4 all survive, even though
Chad's is questionable.
Chad's is wild. This is the wildest survival that I can remember of he just gets brutally stabbed by 2 Ghostfaces. And that was a really cool thing also. I don't think I was trying to rack my brain. I didn't actually go through all 5 previous, but I don't think they've ever shown both in the same shot because it's always 2 well, except the third one.
Because it's always been like
killers.
a question if there's 2
right.
killers.
And like they're always in different spaces to give each other an excuse.
Yeah.
And even when it all comes together at the end, they're usually already unmasked. Once it's like finally they're together.
Yeah.
Stewie and Billy, the Mikey one, they're together as humans, not as Ghostface. So they had taken the masks off by the time. But this one, 2 Ghostface just absolutely destroying Chad. And then the part that made me kick my little toesies is they both at the exact same time do the schwink, the blade clean when they use their skirt to clean the blade that he does in every movie. I was so
that
pumped.
was cool. That was actually really cool, that moment.
And
it's so ominous too. It's like, oh, let me clean my blade for you. You know?
we can't mix blood.
Yeah.
Can't have that. Can't have that. Another one of the ladder scene where another ultra violent when Mindy's girlfriend gets stabbed in the apartment, a stab and a full drag up her stomach.
Yeah, up her stomach.
Yet is able to talk and move and halfway climb a ladder to a different building.
I would be dead already.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They also introduced Sam has a secret boyfriend.
Secret boyfriend.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he lives across like a courtyard.
Alley,
an alleyway. Another really cool one that they've never really done before is this like the classic action tension moment of trying to get somewhere where the killer's behind them. And it's this little ladder and all of them get across except for this one girl who's halfway. And the killer doesn't just like reach and grab her. He like toys with her by like banging the ladder up and down and just freaking her out. Like he could have just climbed out a little bit and like, swing, you're dead.
No, I don't think he could have reached her, but I think if anything, he should have just pushed the ladder.
Yeah, but he wanted to just freak everybody out.
Yeah.
Toy with them. Add ultra violence. She falls off the ladder. Great
Hits
stuff.
her head.
Hits her head.
I didn't look.
Irma looked away for that one.
Yeah. It's like, no way. The one thing about this movie that I didn't like and honestly didn't understand was the museum. So there's this whole thing in this that the killer creates a Scream museum essentially, but like within the world. So it's like all of the ghost-faced outfits and masks, plus like everything, like costumes from the old movies. What else is there? Like the TV that kills Randy.
Mm-hmm.
But like, why is it in New York? I don't know. It just felt like such a strange thing.
Yeah, and now we can get to kind of not the downfall, but just the weaker part of the movie. Again, everything leading up to the last, let's say 20-ish minutes is just top tier, top 3, I would say, of the movies. The Ghostface scenes are some of the best I can remember. The killer reveal just doesn't live up to it. It's one of the weaker ones. And yeah, so they introduce that there's some sort of freaky Scream museum of all the previous killers. Oh, and we forgot the biggest part, that at all of the killings, the killer is leaving a mask from one of the previous killers, which I thought was going backwards, which I thought was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I did really like that.
If you yada yada pass, how did they get the masks? Is fine. Like whatever. It's a ridiculous horror movie. It's fine.
And also, like, I don't really understand how they're able to tell.
Well, they kept saying it had the DNA of.
Oh.
It's like, oh, this had the DNA of whatever Mikey Madison's character's name is, and it had the DNA of Richie, who was Jack Quaid's character, and Rory Culkin and all of them.
And we should also say like a couple. So Sam and what's Jenna Ortega's name?
Tara.
So Sam and Tara's roommate dies in their apartment. Her father is a cop and wants to catch Ghostface for killing his daughter. So he is also like with them the whole time, essentially.
Yeah, and that part felt a little odd.
Yeah, and then they bring in the FBI agent.
Oh, right. So as they're interrogating Sam and Tara, because actually the Tony Revolori character in that murder, when both of them get killed in their apartment, the killer drops Sam Carpenter's ID So to like immediately just implicate her in it, but then also like obviously it's not her.
Yeah.
But then so the cops are onto her and protecting her or whatever. Yeah. So his daughter gets killed. The FBI comes in, takes jurisdiction. Turns out that Kirby from Scream 4, Hayden Panettiere's character, who was stabbed, did not die, and she became an FBI agent and is here to help and can understand what these girls are going through.
It was kind of silly. It was definitely fan servicey, but I mean, I guess she was fine.
Yeah,
Like,
you're gonna
nothing
have
like-
some fan service. She got the biggest pop, honestly. Everybody
did,
got
yeah.
the big cheer. Like when Gail came back, I guess because Gail's in all of them,
Mhm.
it didn't get the big pop. If I had to be honest, I think Gail is the worst character, and I was hoping she was gonna die, but I guess maybe they're saving that for the next one
Yeah,
because
I mean,
they did kill Dewey in the last one. So then to kill the next person would be like, all right, now we're
Yeah.
just doing it too. We're picking them all off.
and she really fought back. I really liked that about her.
She's become
Yeah,
in
her
the last
scene.
one too. She's become very formidable.
Yeah.
which is good. I don't know. She's just like, there's something about Courtney Cox. Love her as Monica and some of the funnier stuff she does, but I don't know. Like when she starts to get real serious, there's just something about it that I'm like, nah, not really.
Yeah. Well, she's not in it that much.
Yeah. So the cop is having a hard time and it's like, all right, we're just gonna kill this guy. I'm in it with you, and they blindly trust him as like, I don't know. I guess you would, a police officer.
And then they decide to lock themselves in the museum
the
to
museum.
lure Ghostface there. And they do this with Kirby, but then like the cop, who is Dermot Mulroney, tries to convince them like, no, Ghostface is actually Kirby.
Yeah, they hinted
So
at
watch out for Kirby.
So I think there was like 4, while I was watching it, I was like, there was 4 big potential killers. One being Chad, potentially, even though that would have felt very strange, but it would have been a really crazy twist. One being Chad's roommate, just because we didn't know him. And the only reason I definitely didn't think it was going to be him, because his character was so similar to Jack Quaid's in the last one, like the self-deprecating kind of nerdy guy. It's like, oh, well, we're fun loving. We're just having a good time here. So it's like they couldn't possibly do the same kind of character again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cop, I kind of got pretty suspicious of Dermot Mulroney pretty early, being like, what's going on here? And then they make you get suspicious of Kirby as well. That's like
They
the big
also
one.
Make you suspicious of Sam, even though we know it's not her.
Yeah, they do. They definitely
like her
hint
mental
at,
health.
and she
Yeah.
doesn't help it. That they go into the museum and they get locked in somehow. At first, we think we're like, oh no, it is Kirby. And then she comes in and we're like, no, it's you. Because I think the cop calls them and is like, it's Kirby. And Kirby
Yeah.
shows up there and we think it's her. But then right before, she's like, no, it's not me. And it turns out it is Dermot Mulroney.
With his 2 kids.
With both kids. So I actually was thinking, I think they should do 3 killers. And they did. The problem was when they showed them, Irma really wanted them. And I agree. All 3 of them should have come out in the Ghostface costume.
Yeah,
to
Dermot
show all
Mulroney
3.
never wore it.
So both,
So
well,
was
not that
he-
we saw. Right?
Yeah. So was he ever, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Unclear if he was always just the mastermind or he was at some points actually in the costume.
Yeah.
I think if I had to give a definitive answer, which there really is none, I would say no, he
Yeah.
wasn't actually ever in the costume. But why not? Like that would have been such a cool scene to
would
have
have been
all
so
3 of them.
cool.
Because you see the 2, which again, I don't think they'd ever shown. The
Yeah.
2 of them stab the hell out of Chad. And then it's just like a two-person fight where it's not normally. It's normally a bunch of people fighting against the one Ghostface. This
Yeah.
is 2 of them. But then if there was a 3rd one, it would have been so cool. And then all of them taking their masks off.
Mm-hmm.
But Dermot Mulroney kind of comes in just as the cop, but then it becomes blatantly obvious that it's him. And it just doesn't work. He can't carry it. There's something off about his psycho act. Like he is a classic NYPD Blue Law and Order guy. He plays a perfect cop. That's what he does. He does it really well. And when he had to transition to like, ha ha ha,
Yeah,
no,
like the
I'm
unhinged,
psycho.
yeah,
It's like,
it
nah,
didn't
you're not
work.
psycho. You're pushing it too far. Turns out that he is Jack Quaid's dad from Scream 5
Yeah.
and his other 2 kids.
So Chad's roommate.
Who is the nerdy, self-deprecating, very similar to Jack Quaid's character because he is actually his brother. So that totally makes sense. and then the roommate of
Sam and
Tara, who we thought was dead.
Yeah.
So her dying was fake because she's in on it. So it's the whole family affair. And again, like it's cool. The battle at the end is just as entertaining as any of the battles. Just the monologue is not there. And they just couldn't carry it, especially compared to, and I'm going to keep saying it, well, Billy and Stu, which is number one, has to be. It is,
yeah.
But then Mikey Madison came in and Jack Quaid. Those are just like professional actors that are having their, this is the
These
beginning.
Are all professional actors.
Yeah, but I don't, I mean, well, Dermot Mulroney is obviously has been doing it, but not this.
Yeah.
And so Mikey Madison and Jack Quaid, I think, have a massive future ahead of them. And I don't know who these two actors are. And I hate loud people because they're just trying their best. They're not that good.
Yeah.
They're fine. And I just don't see, I know those two are stars on the rise. These two from Six are like, I don't know who these people are. I can't imagine they're doing much else. A bigger gripe. So it's fine that the monologue wasn't great. You're never going to have what happened in 1 and 5 every time. My biggest gripe is the use of the masks, because I think that is such a good idea. And especially when you're acknowledging this is a franchise, we're celebrating the fans. The fans love this. The fans every year maybe watch all 6 of them now, every year, reliving who's the best villain, what's the best monologue, who did it the best. And then they bring that in to this movie of using all the masks, like, oh, Billy's mask is all worn out because it's 25 years old now. Mm-hmm. And they show Sam looking at the mask and using the mask. But then if you're going to do from Scream 5 to Scream 1, going back to all the killers and the killer having access to all those and referencing all those, it just has to, the killer reveal has to go back to 1. It has to be involved with Sydney somehow. And it's just not. It's only the worst killer from Scream 5's parents. So not even the show-stopping killer. It's the other one. Yeah. Like Jack Quaid was a bigger character in the movie, but ultimately Mikey Madison stole the show. And
I wonder why they decided like these were going to be the killers.
Yeah,
like,
it's again a reference to 2 because Billy's mom is the killer in 2. Oh. So they did it again. It's in college and then it's the parents, which we should have seen coming a mile away. But that one had me a little, I didn't guess it.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but then I just don't use the mask. Or if they wanted to establish the mask thing with Sam, because that's the big ending, is that Sam is showing signs, and they showed it with that she can see Billy sometimes, which is, I don't like. I think they can reference that she's kind of aware of Billy's mental state and potentially she's also a bit of a psychopath without actually showing him in reflections all the time. Mm-hmm. They overused it in 5, I thought. Like he's talking to her from the mirror in the house before she kills Jack Quaid. It's like, this is a little much. But they're really showing like those conspiracy theories that came up of her being crazy maybe are true. And she sees Billy's costume and the mask, and she's like a little more intimate with it than should be. And Jen Ortega even calls her out on it. It was like, what are you doing? Because she's just staring in this museum they've built. They have all the killers' costumes and masks.
Yeah.
And she's staring at the Billy one and touching the glass.
Like she has like this connection with her dad.
Yeah. So I think
this way.
I think that was what they wanted, but I think they could have done that. Somehow she could have come in contact with just Billy's mask, and they could have established that part of it that could potentially leak into the next one if they make it, without doing the whole like we're going back in time with all of the killers, because now they can't do it again.
Yeah, because it had no connection to the killers.
Right.
Them going back in time.
The whole time when they were doing all of these masks, I was like, who could it be from 1 that would make sense? And there really isn't a great answer, because I was like, well, could it be like the cameraman that could, like the son of the cameraman that gets killed, Gail's cameraman?
Well, what about
or like one of the cops?
So Billy's best friend, who was that again?
Stu.
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, Matthew Lillard.
Could it be his parents? You know what I mean?
Yeah, potentially. It could have been. Yeah, sure. Because that would have been a connection to also the same, the parents of the killers. But yeah, like I wish they used that trope with all the masks in the next one. So if they do, they talked about, so 5 was the requel, 6 was the bona fide franchise, 7, although potentially not because of money reasons, this is the most money that any of the Scream movies have made. 7 should be the finale.
Yeah.
Like the ultimate finale. And in that case, they've built it up that maybe Sam is going to snap and be the killer. And in that one, they could chuck it all back to hopefully bring Neve Campbell back, even though I think she said she was done. Give her a good enough script. Maybe she'll come back. So Sydney wasn't in this one.
So you're saying you think Scream 7 will be Sam as Ghostface killing Sydney,
Oh,
trying to kill Sydney.
maybe.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. I think there's like this line of how serious they're going and how much backlash they want, where they hint at these things. And then she just dropped the mask at the end.
Yeah.
Like she was
She
holding
did take it with her. Yeah.
she was holding it. She put it in her bag. Then
Look,
she takes
did
it back
put
out.
it on. She dressed as Ghostface.
Right, she did to ultimately kill the killers.
Yeah.
She dressed as Ghostface. So she does
Which
put it
I
on.
liked because it like confused them,
Yeah.
and I think that was smart.
And she references it in both movies when she kills Jack and when she kills Dermot Mulroney. She references like, don't fuck with the daughter of a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like she
yeah.
knows that she's prone to violence, and she's in therapy in the beginning. And she says that the beginning of 6, she says, I'm not here because I killed him. I'm here because it felt right.
Yeah.
And that's like a really cool thing
I know.
to follow.
Play with. Yeah.
And if they do it, now they've hinted at it so much though. They're like, they have to do it.
Yeah. I almost
But then it'll be
think
kind
that,
of disappointing because she's our hero now. She's
I
our Sydney. And
know.
imagine Sydney doing that. But then, so I think in order to do that, they would have to bring Sydney back because ultimately Sam Carpenter is not our new Sydney. Sydney is still always Sydney. So in order to counterbalance our new heroine, there has to be the original one. But I don't know if Neve Campbell wants to do it. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah. We'll see. So something that I have a gripe with, which I think would be consistent for all of them, maybe not all of them, but at least in this one, which I already talked about. But like, so when they show Ghostface, he is formidable. He is scary. But then when they
and also we're always referencing that it's a he.
Exactly.
And often it's not.
I know. In office it's not.
But this goes to your argument.
Yeah. But then when they take off the mask, you see it's this like petite woman and this like lanky guy. But then when they're fighting, they are like, they always win. Or most of the time they always win. Like they're big, they're fast, they're so strong. And I'm not saying
they dodge shotgun bullets.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that these two actors couldn't be that, but obviously it's clear that there's like stunt men and women under the costume, but it just doesn't feel realistic. I know, as silly as that sounds, that this like petite girl and this like lanky guy could do all of this stuff. So that's what like kind of always bothers me about it, is it doesn't feel realistic. Like obviously the first one, Stu and Billy, like that was very realistic.
2 big boys.
Yeah, 2 big guys, being these Ghostface killers, like makes sense, but like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and then the rest of them, except for 3, one has always been a woman.
Yeah.
That argument is the most glaring in 4, because if the killers are just Emma Roberts and Rory Culkin, those people are both maximum 5'4", 130.
Yeah.
And like they just, maybe that I would have to watch the movies thinking about that, because maybe they do take that into account. Like all the stabbings are not like, they don't wrestle much. It's mostly just like, here I am, stab.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But what they
but
do.
This one, no, because so Courtney Cox, she has like this like really big hulking boyfriend, and in this movie, and they come up from behind and they kill him, but also like they drag him. And I'm sorry, but this is a big guy.
It's a big guy.
No way could they drag him like that. I don't know. It just feels like, obviously it's a little silly, but I don't know.
Yeah, fair argument. They do. There is always at least one person that maybe could do it. So like the brother, you never know which one is which.
Yeah.
At the time of the killing. But yeah, they have to be scary killer. Can't be just a little malink.
Yeah. So I have some questions I want to ask you.
Oh yeah, hit me with them.
So first, you've already hinted at it, but I think you should rank your Scream villain reveals and monologue.
Easy. I already have it in front of me. Scream villain reveal from worst to first. Scream 3 is the worst. We do not talk about Scream 3. It's just bad. Scream 6 is now 5. Again, the rest of the movie, really good. The reveal and the monologue, not there. Didn't work. Then Scream 2, Oliphant, legend. Billy's mom, it's in a theater. They kind of play, they're on either sides, like stage left, stage right. It's interesting. But then the 2 newer ones have jumped them because Emma Roberts, I think, does a fantastic job with the reveal and her talking about not wanting to live in the shadow and her wanting to be the hero. And why can't she be celebrated? And then when she's like throwing herself all around the living room to make it look like she was being attacked because she's ultimately gonna make it look like Sydney tried to kill her. It all just really worked. It was great. And then Rory Culkin isn't as much in it. He's kind of the stew to Emma Roberts because then Emma Roberts kills him.
What?
But even his reveal, he has a great line too because there's like the will they or won't they of Hayden Panettiere and Rory Culkin. It's like he has a crush on her and she's like the hot girl that doesn't reference him. But then we kind of find out that Hayden kind of was always a little bit into him because he's like into the weird guy. So near the end, they finally almost kiss. And who would have known? Maybe if this happened a week before, he wouldn't have gone on a murderous rampage. But then right before he stabs her, he goes, "You waited until right now to finally make a move?" He's like really mad, like the night of the ultimate killing. It's like finally when you're going to do it. So that scene is really good by him. And then Scream 5, I keep saying it, but Mikey Madison in the kitchen, the I know line, her screaming welcome to Act 3, like fully acknowledging the movie and she says like, "This is when it's going to get violent," and starts just stabbing people. And Jack Quaid just kind of, he goes from that charming, perfect character that he always is into this really menacing beast. And he does a really good job with it. The only thing with Mikey's ultimate death when she gets all lit on fire is crazy, but then she runs back out all burnt up. I mean, they do it. That's the thing. Like they're not actually dead until you take the headshot. That part's a little over the top, but man, it's just, she does such a good job. And then number 1 is just number 1. It's like, it's the original Stu and Billy, the reveal. Cause at that point, it's just, you don't even know what to expect when you're watching Scream 1 for the first time if you've never seen them. And it comes out of these 2 psychopath guys. And when they start stabbing each other to make it look like they were not involved.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Matthew Lillard thing where he's like coughing up blood, be like, "You went too deep, Billy. You went too deep."
Oh my God, he's
just so good. And then Billy, even though that guy Skeet Ulrich hasn't done that much else.
Really.
He just plays that character so well. He's so handsome, and then he's so scary.
He kind of reminds me of like the brother in Stranger Things. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Doesn't he kind of look like
a little
him?
bit? Well, they had like, he had that middle part long hair that was still Stranger Things is 80s, but mid 90s was still kind of more greasy. So what changed was that it got a little greasier in the 90s. But yeah, you cut me too deep. They were like truly 2 deranged dudes.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Who would you say is the scariest ghost face?
Like as in the costume.
Yeah, maybe in the costume and then out of the costume.
Oh, well, it's Billy. Out of the costume, it's Billy. He's like the only one that's like actually pretty scary.
Okay.
Kind of the whole time though. Billy is like scary.
Looming, yeah.
He's looming. You like, it seems stupid that we don't realize it's him. Because they hint at it so much and he's so just foreboding the whole time.
Yeah.
And to your argument, I could actually see
him doing that
guy doing that and being formidable enough. But in the costume scenes, Scream 6 was really, really scary. Yeah. Him just going the subway scene.
Yeah, we didn't
was
really talk
crazy.
About that much. Yeah,
it was so good of just like this ominous moving towards Mindy and have like, there's no, actually, if she was more familiar with New York, you can go through those doors. Like she should have just gone through the door that was directly behind her to the next car and just backed up until they got to the next stop. I only just realized that. But like there was nowhere for her to go in theory. And it just kept going, coming closer and closer. But again, it was Halloween. So you didn't know it was actually the killer because of the stab movies in the Scream universe. People are wearing the ghost face masks that are totally normal people.
Yeah. Yeah. So who would you say is the worst ghost face?
Oh, easily Scream 3. I forget even his name. It was like the director of the new Stab movie.
Right.
And it was just bad. The reveal was bad. The whole thing, everyone was so goofy in it. Dewey was ridiculous in it.
Yeah.
It's like they made it kind of into a joke, which was a little disappointing.
Last one. Is there a standout death you remember most?
Ooh.
I have
Now
one.
I have to try and think of.
Mine will always be Rose McGowan.
I was going to say
in the garage door.
I was going to say, if I have to pick, the one that stands out is the garage door one. The first two, when Drew Barrymore's boyfriend gets his stomach slit open, and then Drew Barrymore hanging is brutal. It's the only time, I think I've referenced this in a previous episode, that hangings still really bother me, even though I've watched so much horror. And that's the only time I think that they have hung someone.
Yeah, you're right.
And let's see, from a more recent one.
Well, this one they had the eye stab or a mouth stab.
Yeah. When was it Sam or Jenna Ortega that kills the kid? I think it was Jenna Ortega, right?
Yeah.
Stabs him in the mouth.
In the mouth.
It's brutal. Yeah, the kills in this one are really good.
Okay, that was it. That was the end of my lightning round questions. Yeah, if you guys have any questions for the Scream Master himself, email us.
All right, that was a very long one. Thank you for hanging in there. Hopefully you liked it. Next week, after the onslaught of the Oscars, this long episode, the end of Last of Us, I'm going on a work trip. We're taking 1 week off to relax and recuperate, and then we will return for a huge television. We have Succession season 4 starting. We have Ted Lasso season 3 starting. We have Yellow Jackets season 2 starting, and the end of Shrinking, which we have been loving. So I'm excited to see how they're going to close out season 1. And then we'll probably, within the next 2 weeks, catch up on the History of the World Part 2, as to break up all that stuff with some funny stuff.
And I'm sure there'll be other things that we're going to keep up with. Like, I know I'm going to keep watching Top Chef.
All right, Top Chef.
And what else is there? Was this the episode I had to talk about Top Chef? Did I forget?
Yeah. That's just, we'll talk about, this was already so long. We'll talk about Survivor up through like season 5 and Top Chef up through season 4.
Season? Wow, that's a lot of TV to watch.
So I think when we return in 2 weeks, it'll be all television. So everybody can catch up on all the shows that we just talked about.
Well, thank you so much to Craig for all of your work this past week. It's been a lot of you editing, sitting at the computer. And thank you so much to John Welsh for our intro and outro music.
Subscribe so you know every time we post an episode. Feel free to leave a review on whatever platform you are listening to us on. Follow us on all the socials at Talkintent without the G, and email us any questions you have at talkintent@gmail.com. From our living room to yours, what's your favorite scary movie?